Welcome back to the Worthy for 30 podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tash. With me today is the founder of the ANDI Brand, Andrea Weinberg. Welcome to the Worthy for 30 podcast.
Oh man, thank you, Eric. I just got a little nervous with that countdown.
I know. It's Riverside.fm, with the countdown. It's like showtime. Yes. So welcome to the show. Definitely, for the people who are going to be listening to this conversation, really the pivotal question that we want to ask is what happens when design meets deep purpose? And Andrea has been at the helm of the ANDI brand for 10 and a half years. We're going to dive into her journey to where she is today. And before we recorded, we caught up a little bit. We have a mutual connection, someone who's been an incredible supporter and guest of the show, Alyssa Calver, the founder of WeGotThis.org. I hope everyone is following WeGotThis.org and soon to be the ANDI brand once we end this recording, because I'm going to be including links, setting up billboards, magazine advertorials, whatever people need to do to know where the ANDI brand can be found and purchased. So Andrea, let's start there. Again, 10 and a half years in the driver's seat of the ANDI brand. You were living in New York City, right? When you started the brand. Can you take us through, those initial steps on the idea and then from the idea to the actual execution?
Yes. Okay. So one of the most important guiding principles for me that I think is really important when you're just like on your own trying to get a product to life is adventure. Like I had a lot, and also mentors. I had mentors, and some of them were like, "Don't expect this to make money for a very long time," and I was like, but they were right. And also, I was like, I just want to see what happens. And so adventure was critical for me because it looked like talking to as many people as I possibly could, asking for introductions to somebody who had made something before. Man, going from one factory who was like, "You're too small, we don't want to work with you," to another factory that was like, still too small. And then finally, like a little workshop out in Brooklyn that was like, we'll make anything for the right price. And so, thank goodness for that little workshop out in Brooklyn, because I wanted to iteratively refine this product to be the best handbag ever. So it started off as an idea for a waterproof cover for another bag that folded up inside itself, turned into, so I designed that and I made the first one. That first one was actually made in China on a school trip to China when I had brought along these materials that I had sourced. And I went to a little market in Shanghai. I gave them this tech pack that someone had designed for me. It was like an introduction through FIT, I believe. And I gave them the fabric, I gave them the instructions, and the next day I showed up and they made it for me. But after that, I was in New York and I wanted to iteratively refine this product. And so this little factory in Brooklyn, they would let me like edit something here and then wear it, use it. And then I'd be like, and I want to add this snap, or I want to move these handles, or I want to add hooks here. So my signature tote, which I will get into, but I'm actually getting ready to sunset, has been through 68 iterations.
68 iterations in a span of 10 and a half years. Wow, 68 iterations. It's funny, like when you were talking about that journey to that first concept and to that first, iteration of that handbag cover to where you are today, one thing that I picked up is this insatiable curiosity. It's like, what if we do this? What if we do that? And can you help describe your design chops? Because it's like super interesting how your
Yeah.
thought process went through these
Uh,
again, talking about iterations, 68 times. Yes.
Yeah. So I think one of the best things I have going for me is that I neither know how to sew or technically design. I never learned how to, I don't know how to make a tech pack. Aside from like the pillow that I made in home ec, I don't really sew. And so if you were to put me on a sewing machine, I feel like I could pick it up. And it is a goal for this year to learn how to sew. But because I don't know how to actually make these things happen, I can have these big ideas and be like, how do we make this happen? And the person who actually has to put it together is like, oh, well, maybe we could do this or that. But what I would often do is I would take a pillowcase and some duct tape and I would like create a bag with like duct tape, and I would figure out how to do all these things. And even if I had an existing bag, like at one point, this never came to fruition, but I designed this tennis bag, and
Mm-hmm.
I just tore apart my tennis racket cover to make this bag. It's still hanging on by a thread. But yeah, so I think in a way there's an advantage to not having to actually find the solution yourself, but to be able to have the idea and then work with other people to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, that's super interesting because, like, if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, again, everybody's filled with ideas, right? The difference between you and other people, Andrea, is the fact that you have an idea and you figure out a way to execute it and make it a reality. So, for the aspiring or the existing entrepreneur that again who has an idea, how do you help them overcome that paralysis?
I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to other people, right? You can't get anything done, and nothing great has ever existed without collaboration between people. And I think one of the biggest things that is holding us back in general, like the collective us, human
Mm-hmm.
beings, is this kind of, I don't want to say fear of other people, but almost like this fake wall that I don't know this person, they're a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some anxiety around approaching other people. I think more and more now that so many people work from home, we can order food without having to even talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
More and more, we just interact with machines. But I have this weird gene. It came from my mother, and she got it from her mother, and my daughter has it as well. And like whatever's evolved in us where we're like afraid to talk to other people, it is missing from my brain, from my psyche. And so I could be anywhere and you could dare me to talk to anyone. And I have found, we did van life, which maybe we'll get into, but I spent a year on the road with my family. And I got to the point where I was challenging myself in strange places like laundromats and playgrounds and coffee shops to just go talk to anyone. And every single person was down to have a conversation. So what I would say is the best thing we can do in our lives is connect with other people. There have been studies that show like deep studies, I'm happy to
Mm-hmm.
share a link, that show that we think we're going to be miserable if we are forced to talk to other people, but actually we report much higher levels of happiness from connecting with other people. Even especially the study that I'm thinking of in particular was done on public transport during a commuter time. So I think outreach, like one of the sustainability innovations that I've come to was my husband found an article in Nature magazine about a scientist who had made some pretty big headway with nylon, with bio-based nylon, which is, we use nylon, but it's previously only been able to be produced from petroleum. And I found this scientist, I sent him an email and I was like, I would love to talk to you about your work. And he wrote back and was like, I would love to talk to you about my work. And we have since not only formed a working relationship, but a friendship. I've met so many people in his department. It has shaped my life in ways that I could not even imagine. And I can say that about so many people that I have come into contact with from ANDI. The story of ANDI and my adventure and all of the most beautiful growth we've had has
Mm-hmm.
been about human to human connection. And not only has it enriched my products and my company, but more than anything, like me as a human being.
That is amazing. Because I'm having these conversations both on the podcast and with friends, people in my network about again human connection. We're missing that, especially we use 2020 and beyond as a crutch. Like, okay, now we live in this hybrid lifestyle. To your point, we need to make a more concerted effort to actually get out there and actually connect with people. Because to your point, the sum is greater than the individual parts once we start talking and working and collaborating again providing value. It's not just, hey, how can you help me? Like, how can we help each other? I think
Mm-hmm.
is super important. But in terms of the sustainability aspect, because that's one thing that really caught my attention when Alyssa connected us, excuse me, is this sustainability, the aspect of living efficiently and living in a minimalist lifestyle through ANDI and through the bags that you and your team produce. So you talked about a little bit of the how, when you started.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about the why.
Yeah. So, it's funny. So I started working on ANDI when I can't even do the math right now, but figure like 26, 27 years old, and sustainability was not on my mind. However, I was living in a teeny tiny apartment in New York City and I was out from morning until night. And so still what I wanted was to be able to do more with less. That is why the bags are built to last. The bags are made to like be as small as possible while still carrying a ton of things with all the right pockets. And I don't know if I already said they transform, but they transform. So like tote to backpack, got a little snap out clutch. It's all about doing more with less, taking up less room in your closet, being able to go from your workout to work, out to dinner, out beyond. And so there actually it was never the idea at the beginning was not sustainability, but that is the most sustainable thing we can do is just use less and reuse as much as possible. And I know that now because, as discussed, I'm friends with scientists who literally study exactly this. So that's how it started. This is so cheesy, but like I started caring about sustainability more when I became a mom, and just thinking about the future, and also even just thinking about the amount of junk that we consume. When you think about it as like, I live in this house, and I love, especially when I was living in New York and I had a really finite amount of space, I loved the feeling of like getting rid of things. So like taking stuff to Housing Works or Goodwill or whatever it is, but just feeling like I'm clearing out my space. But when you think about our real home, Earth, the provider of our water and air, the things we need more than even an ANDI bag, to think about all the junk that we accumulate that has to sit here somewhere, it started to really get to me and started to really inform how I thought about sustainability. And then that was amplified when I started connecting with the scientists and understanding the impacts of virgin materials versus recycled materials, and also understanding circularity in general, and how big the opportunity is to use what's already waste. So 40% of landfill is textile waste. I heard a stat recently. It was like the amount of clothing we have is enough to clothe human beings for 7 generations without ever producing a new thing. Yeah. So my focus started as doing more with less, which is in and of itself a core sustainability tenet, although it wasn't on purpose to be sustainable. But then it turned into upcycling, really like circularity and upcycling. And that has become the core of where I'm taking ANDI.
Gotcha. Okay, and we'll talk about like sunsetting, that marquee bag in a second. But it goes back to the mission, right? I saw a quote actually a couple of days ago about mission and mission-driven brands. Like, and it sounds a little cynical, but I would love to get your perspective. Consumers don't care about your mission unless they see themselves in your story. So, do you have any consumers who are reaching out to you and thanking you and more or less empowering them to do more with less and to be a proactive contributor to reducing waste on planet Earth?
I have customers that reach out to me and say, thank you. And like, I love these emails. I appreciate this information. So I like that quote. And I think I disagree. And I'm not saying
Okay.
it, I shouldn't say I
Please.
disagree. I don't know that I totally agree. I think absolutely they need to see themselves, but I think the most important thing is that at the end of the day, the product is still awesome. I think it could be the most sustainable product in the world. It could have a company with the best mission in the world, but like if Bombas were not cool socks, no one would buy them. If
Correct.
Toms weren't cool shoes, no one
Correct.
would buy them. So I think a mission is great and it helps consumers see themselves in the story. And I think people love to have a story to tell, like, oh, I like your bag. It's amazing. It's like made by these people who get a second chance at life. But unless it's a cool bag, you're not going to get the compliment in the first place. So I think the product still has to be awesome, first and foremost. Yeah, that's a core belief.
Yes, the product has to be awesome. And the other thing that I've been talking to founders, similar to you, is that you can have a great product, but if no one knows about it, again, who cares? So can you talk to us about how people find out about Andy and the Andy brand?
Yeah. Okay. So when I started, I had the good fortune of knowing someone who I'm going to shout her out by name. My friend Brooke was a
Please.
personal trainer at Equinox and mentioned Andy to a buyer. And so I got to go in and do a trunk show at Equinox. And that trunk show turned into trunk shows, which turned into consignment. So I was doing consignment at a few stores, at a few of the shops, which turned into a lot of the shops, which I loved because on consignment, which if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's when you ship product and the retailer doesn't pay you until the product is sold. So if it never sold, they just ship it back. it is what it is. But what was cool is I was able to test things out. I was able to do kind of like real time market research to understand what was selling, what the customer wanted. And that was huge for me. So that turned into doing a wholesale business with Equinox, where I was shipping to all of their stores. Celebrities were buying bags. Celebrities were reaching out to me about bags. This was pre-COVID. This was like 2017. And it was, I think we were like the first like cool workout bag on the market. And I took for granted that I probably should have gone like all in and done something huge. But my goal was never really to have the biggest handbag company in the world, because as we've discussed, I don't really like so much stuff. I like doing more with less. And so I always wanted to be very intentional. It even became a challenge for me to keep up with wholesale because I was seeing what was selling well. At that point, we had launched our own online business, and I had these classic bags in classic colors that were selling really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But from our wholesale partners, who at that point had grown to be Anthropologie and Free People, I'm forgetting now, but we were at one point we had, over 200 wholesale accounts that we were working with, and they wanted new. And that was, and again, as somebody who wasn't a designer, I brought on designers, but I think at that time I was so young, and I would say I wasn't a good CEO. And I say I wasn't a good CEO because I think a good CEO steers the ship. They know exactly where they're going. They have a vision, and they don't have to know how to do everything, but they know where the ship needs to go, and everybody else is there to help move the ship forward. I was like, I guess we'll just see what happens. Like, I guess we'll just see like where the water takes the ship. And so I felt a little lost. Like the company had gotten so much bigger than I ever envisioned it might be. And so at that point, COVID hit. So I was like in this confused place of like, I guess we need to introduce all this stuff and see what wholesale buys, but then also like we still need to produce the stuff that's working for our online channel. And then COVID hit, and all of our retail partners shut their doors, at least for a while. And I ran into some manufacturing challenges, and also no one was buying travel bags. So that was a hard time for the company. And that gave me the opportunity to take a step back. And at that point, I decided I really just wanted to focus on selling directly to our end customers through our website, since that had been going well. Now, I think what I took for granted there, and at that point, advertising on digital advertisements, I'll call it, that was working quite well for us, but it became more and more expensive. And I think I took for granted that so many of our customers learned about us through our wholesale partners, our retail partners, our wholesale channels, I should say. So that has been something to contend with. It's definitely been harder these days. The cost of advertising on Meta has gone up significantly. So I'm constantly looking for new ways for customers to find out about us. And I think there are some cool opportunities out there.
Yes, and it's funny, like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about live shopping as the next frontier because of how well it's doing in China. But again, that's more of a tactic. It's to your point. What makes most sense for the brand. Before we get into actual distribution, two things. First, what did COVID teach you about pivoting as a business founder?
First of all, I'm a big fan of the pivot. I think that's one thing that an entrepreneur has to always keep their eyes on. Like pivots have to be informed, obviously, not only by the data coming in from the market, but what COVID taught me about the pivot was that I had to be listening to and honoring myself as well. That's really what COVID taught me, because COVID hit and I hit burnout really hard. I also became a mom, the mom of my second child. So I had a second baby, and that was a huge kick in the butt. And it was a pretty tough time for me. So I had to really take a step back, and that's kind of where my values shifted even further. And I was like, I have to make this mission driven. Like this has to feel absolutely right for me.
And when you
Okay,
say
what is life? Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into live shopping in a second. No, absolutely. But in terms of like making it, absolutely authentic to you, so you said something very interesting, which is true. The window of shutdown. It seemed slow at the time, but it happened very fast, where everything just shut down. Like life as we knew it, like shut down. Like no one was traveling, no one was commuting, no one was leaving their house. and you built the brand around travel or mobility. So what was that? Can you just provide like a concrete example of, okay, no one's traveling, what do we do now?
Yeah. So we did was what was nice is I was just coming out with a product that was, oh man, we have such a cool reusable shopper. You could use it as a beach bag. It's beautiful. I wish I had one here to show you. But it's called the Origami Shopper, and I based it off of Trader Joe's bag, but a Manhattan Trader Joe's bag, because the Trader Joe's bags in Manhattan are even more carryable because people have to actually walk from the grocery stores to their apartment. So I sent that bag to the factory and I was like, and I want you to like adjust the straps like this. I want to have over the shoulder carry handles. And I also have like a snap closure so it folds up really small. But so we just launched those and people were really caring about, first of all, that's the one thing people were doing was they were grocery shopping. And people started caring more about sustainability during COVID. And so we really pushed the Origami Shopper, which was great, and we push what was selling well at the time as well. We make a little urban clutch. It's like for leggings, if your leggings don't have a pocket, you just wear this cute little bag and it's enough for your cell phone and your keys and your credit cards, and like it actually up levels your outfit. So we were really pushing the products that were doing well, and that fit with the lifestyle. Like that was the one thing you could get out and do was go for a walk.
Oh, that's amazing. And now, so let's hear your question about live shopping.
Okay, Eric, I think I know what live shopping is, but I would love to hear you describe it and like talk about where it's seeing success.
Well, from what I've heard, and again, I haven't seen it, recently live, but TikTok Shop and I think Whatnot is the
Mhm.
other platform, both. But the thing with TikTok, at least TikTok Shop, again, you have an ingrained audience. It's like if Instagram has live shopping, you have billions of people on a network already, again, active on the platform, and then adding a feature to allow that consumer to shop from something that's native to them is a huge win. So I would look at, like, there is again the ingrained audience, TikTok, a lot of, I'm using Gary Vaynerchuk's vernacular, but where are the eyeballs? Where's the attention? The attention's happening on TikTok, and it seems like, again, a very intuitive shopping experience. So that would be my recommendation, is to look into
But
TikTok.
like, what is it? Is it somebody who's in a shop and like modeling different
Like
things
QVC, like
and you can
QVC
order? It's like QVC
on your
meets
phone.
TikTok.
Yeah, QVC on your phone.
Goodness. Okay, cool.
Yes,
But
yes.
like,
So
still, they're not getting to like necessarily like touch and feel the product.
no, yeah, no tactile
Okay.
experience. Yeah, right. But again,
Okay.
I would highly recommend looking into that. Going back though to, I just want to go back to it for a second, to the wholesale, bring on these wholesale accounts, and again talk about experiential, right? People are meeting the founder, people are seeing the product, people are touching the product. What was the best piece of feedback you got from that experience of gaining those wholesale accounts?
Well, meeting the founder. So I did a few markets and, like I said, the trunk shows. It was, first of all, the first thing I had to figure out how to do was to get people to like even just stop and look at the bags. So that was the first thing. And I think it was like putting the right things front and center, but also like the more people are there, the more people will come. So even just being out in front, sometimes like pretending like I was looking, people would be like, oh, what is she looking at? And then people would come over and I realized, I assumed no one had heard of ANDI at that time, but I would always say, oh, are you familiar with ANDI? So just having an engaging question, and then saying, they're like, oh no, tell me about it. And it's like, okay, well, all of our bags transform. But I think it was so important to just like see customers interact with the product. The market I ever did, I sold one bag and most people just walked right by and I was like, this is something's got to change here. This is not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Again, someone, just one person. A lot of people were walking by, but how did you, like, keep going in terms of like going to these trunk shows and?
Yeah, so that first market was like just there were like markets in New York City. This one was on Hester Street, and that told me I was like the product's not ready. It is not ready. And so I asked for feedback from customers like when they did stop and talk. But I was like, this is not ready. I think it doesn't look refined enough. Like, I had gotten the label from somebody in the garment district and it was like pressed on. It wasn't a woven label and I think it made the
Yeah.
bag look cheaper, and Bags are a status symbol for women. Whether we like it or not, they are. And so they need to look nice, they need to be cool. And that, I think, I was like, this bothers me. This must be bothering other people. Honestly, I think the one woman who bought it for me, it was like a sympathy purchase. But I appreciate her.
I appreciate you for buying that bag. Yeah, for giving me hope that I can,
I might have
continue
fully
on.
given up, but not for that.
Not for that. No, that is amazing. Again, take a step back, to see how consumers are interacting with the product, and then having the self awareness to say, oh, maybe it's not right. I think of the Reid Hoffman quote: if you're not embarrassed by the first iteration of your product, then you've launched too late. So it's good that gave you some some pause. So now we're in 2025, it's November. You mentioned you're sunsetting your marquee product. What's the next chapter?
Oh man. Okay, so like I am not only am I sunsetting our marquee product, I am sunsetting almost all of the bags that have been like the ANDI collection. So I'm talking like our totes with all the bells and whistles, our backpacks that do all these cool things, and they're beautiful and they're made with virgin nylons, and also there's some recycled components in there. But the next iteration is producing here in the US, all upcycled. So there we have some scraps that we'll use and some trims, but I think I really want to stick with the concept that we already have enough of what we need. And so instead of letting it go into landfill, let's use these strong, built to last materials and turn them into something cool. And I think there's an appetite for that. I think there's an appetite for things that are unique. And, when you're, let's say, a banner, for example, if you're cutting up a banner, every single piece is going to be unique. If you're upcycling all of the trims that you have, every single piece is going to be unique. So I think there's an appetite for that. What I still will keep consistent is bags have to transform. They have to be super strong, super well made, super well reinforced, which means we've got to wear test the crap out of them, which we are. And I also want that transformation piece, that like multiple ways to wear can take you from a casual walk to a dinner out, being able to do more with less. That's still a core tenet.
When does that collection go live?
We've already started. It's we're really doing pre-order now because we're testing and because we are constrained. So eventually we'll be able to launch like multiple colors at a time with like a bigger line. That's the hope. But for now, so I just did a backpack that is made all of upcycled ANDI straps. So of course we were limited there. So we sold those on pre-order. Those have all been made. They've shipped. So between pre-order and when they shipped, so the pre-order was 2 weeks long. Yep. And from the time the pre-order closed until the bags went out was 1 week.
Gotcha. Okay. And then if I pre-ordered and I received, a new backpack that's 100% upcycled, made in the US, are you expecting me to say something, to reach out and say, I love the bag? Like, are you expecting feedback from this first crop of consumers?
That's interesting. No, I haven't been expecting feedback, but you've given me the idea that I should reach out and ask.
Well, yeah, because what's interesting is like, I love the authenticity, right? Of the consistency of, okay, we're going to sunset, the ANDI collection. Now this new collection is going to be 100% upcycled material, very versatile. Again, as you said, from gym workout to night out on the town. And again, it's that consistency of that core pillar of sustainability. But how did you know? Like, how did you validate that consumers want that versus what?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so we've done a few pre-order campaigns before, but it's not only what consumers want, it's what I'm able to give right now. And so where I'm also seeing the sunsetting of these products that we've already made, that have been the classic ANDI styles, I'm seeing these because they're built to last. And even if, let's say, like a zipper, they're great zippers, but let's say that a zipper comes apart, we can repair that. And so I see a really big secondhand market coming alive for ANDI. And right now it's sparse. We do have one up. It's sparse, but we're getting a lot of requests for things that have already sold out. And so I think eventually these classic pieces will be sold for more than what they for.
Look at that. I love it.
And we'll never end up in a landfill. Yeah.
It will never end up in a landfill. It's funny because I had my friend Tiffany, who's a founder and CEO of Designer Revival, up on the Upper East Side. It's again that same concept of recycled. That Louis Vuitton bag doesn't have to go to the landfill. It could be sold and have a second life.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yes. Cooler than ever. Better than ever.
better than ever. And there's like an upholster, like shoes and handbags, and I'm being in the village that has a great Instagram account. I have to find it and send it to you, where they take like an old Louis Vuitton bag and turn it into something else, which is pretty extraordinary.
So cool.
Yeah, it's super super cool. So I know we're coming up on the hour. For the folks who are the aspiring founders, the entrepreneurs, one thing that at least I've interpreted is, creativity, and I'm borrowing this from Rick Rubin, the famous producer, is that it's a diary entry, right? It's like you're creating a handbag because, again, it's special to you, but your gift is sharing it with other people, for allowing them to buy it. What is again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what is your advice to that aspiring entrepreneur, that existing founder today who's listening to our conversation?
Oh my God, we need each other. Share yourself and also live your adventure. Entrepreneurship is the ultimate adventure. The people that you will meet, the things you will see, the places you will go. This is your life. It's short. Do something, just like we were saying, do something big every year, do something big every week. I think there is no greater adventure than bringing something to life that you can share.
It's amazing. And this is a great place to put a pin in this one solitary conversation. Many more to come. Andrea, I do appreciate your time. For the folks who want to follow you and the ANDI brand, where can they find you and the ANDI brand?
So I haven't been posting that much because it's been really nice to not post. But if you go to the andibrand.com, you can find us there. I also have a blog where I like to share my thoughts. So the best way for us to be in touch is sign up for our newsletter. I think the communication that we send out is really nice. I really try to bring to the forefront human to human connection, which is something I'm really passionate about and interested in. And I personally am Amiga Andy. So Amiga, like friend in Spanish, Andy, always with an I.
Always with an I. Look at that. And I'll include those handles, the website address for anyone who has questions to follow the brand online. Again, really do appreciate your time this evening, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Eric.
Of course.